Hi all, can you hear me? Yes. All right. And a very good evening to all of you. And let me start with this by saying that this is not a speech that I'm going to deliver. This is actually what I'm going to convey is what I have understood under Order 37 of CPC. And the understanding of me is that is what I'm going to share with you. And there are seniors and super seniors over here and my colleagues over here whom all I have learned something. Each and every day passes as that of a learning. And with regard to this chapter, let me start with saying it all started when the word of mouth had lost its value and everything had been documented right from the beginning. When it came to documentation, people started documentation and not to honor the documentations. And thereafter, it led up to litigations. And when it came to litigation, there were some issues that some are to be contested, and there were some uncontested issues where some uncontested matters which were left as that of what to say, they were not interested in contesting. So in those cases, it would not have been any such defense or something where their defense would be of sham or frivolous or vexatious or something. It will be a namesake defense. So a legislation was enacted under Order 37, the summary procedure, where the prime object of that is the commercial world, certain types of litigations concerning the commercial activities should be expeditiously proceeded and given a quietus, that is put an end to it. See, for example, what I mean by commercial is, though it's a hand loan that a person gets it from another party, an individual or something, it will be a commercial transaction. It is not a hand loan like that. He's going to repay the interest. The principal alone. He's going to repay it along with the interest. Okay, that's it. So if it carries interest, it cannot be termed as a domestic kind of thing. Even a domestic loan is a commercial loan. Even the banks are into the commercial business. So this kind of enactments not only secures the banker or the financial institution or the money lender and the individual as well. So such a legislation was brought into in the CPC under Order 37. And initially, like what we say, it was the court to consider that take up these kind of suits, litigation, where William at Bombay and Madras. And later on, after some enactments, there were some classification of courts which had to be dealt with. They were the presidency town city civil courts like that. And after some while, an amendment came into force in the year 1976-77, where it was clear that the high courts, the courts which shall entertain these kind of summary suits, or the high courts, city civil courts, small causes court, and the other courts. And I would like to say before going to that, it is a boon to the proposed plaintiffs, and it is the best provision in the CPC for speedy disposal and also speedy recovery for the plaintiff side. Because there is no defense at all for the defendant unless or otherwise he establishes a case in his favor. Let me go to the right from the first. What are the courts which can entertain this? High courts, civil courts, as per the Order 37, high courts, civil courts, small causes court, and other courts. Initially, there were some confusions before the district courts whether these kind of summary suits can be entertained or not. And a brave-hearted person came out with a filing of a suit under Order 37 before the Tiruvallur Court, District Court, Tiruvallur, wherein the district judge didn't return the suit on the ground that such a suit is not maintainable before the Tiruvallur District Court. It came up under Article 227 of the Constitution of India before the Honorable High Court, wherein Justice Nagamuthu had specifically given a landmark judgment in this issue, stating that all the courts within the state of Tamil Nadu exercising the civil jurisdiction is empowered and, entitled to try the case under Order 37. And there it starts from there. So we move on to the jurisdiction of the courts, and from there to the business of filing. And more particular, institution of suits. We would like to say before that, what are the ingredients of the case that are to be filed under the summary suit category? They are very particular in this enactment that when it comes to recovery of money, it should be under the on a summary procedure. If it is complicated or anything like a defensive, it is not at all possible to conduct an expeditious summary procedure and close it down further as soon as possible. So certain restrictions were made for coming under the summary suit. They are the bills of exchange, hundis, or any instruments that can guarantee the money repayable to the plaintiff and on the default of the defendant, so that he can file a suit. Those kind of suits which guarantees money to the plaintiff are enumerated under Order 37. And thereafter, let me take you to the provision where, one second. And the format of suit, I would like to specifically state, the plaint should be as far as as like the plaint in Order 7, Rule 1. But there are restrictions under Order 37 that the cause title should contain the nomenclature that it is filed under Order 37 of CPC, Rule 1 and 2 of CPC, not under Order 7, Rule 1 CPC. And there should be a specific avowment to that effect that no relief that is claimed under that does not fall under the ambit of this Order 37 is claimed in the suit. And we are specifically given to understand by learning on a reading of the CPC that certain sums which fall under the category of penalty is not recoverable under this suit. So for that, regular suit lies and not under this chapter, Order 37, and very particular. So as soon as we file it, the next thing, what comes to the fore is the plaint is made ready. Plaint should contain such avowments, and plaint should specifically state that it is under Order 37. And after that, what we file is this summon. What is the summon in this when it comes to normal suit and this suit? Normal suit will contain a regular suit summon. But here in this case, the summon should be as it is stated in Form 4, as in the appended to. That is called the summary suit summons. In case, if we happen to enclose the normal original suit summons and not the summary suit summons, the defendant is entitled for leave on that ground, that sole ground itself. And moreover, let me tell you, there are instances where the courts on service of such summons on a regular suit in a summary suit have directed the defendant to file the written statement, taking up the under chapter suit under Order 37 as a regular suit. So we need to be careful on these kind of procedures also. Summons are best when you are ensured that it is a summary suit summon. And the next thing that comes is, once the court takes up the issue and it has been taken up on file, summons are issued. There is certain things are there for the defendant side, where the defendant on such receipt of the summons has to enter appearance before the court of law. On he entering, he has to enter the appearance within a period of 10 days. It is very much restricted, just because it has to be expedited. These claims and these suits are to be expedited and to be finalized within a time frame or within a minimum space. within a minimum space at a maximum limit. Okay. So 10 days time is granted for him to enter appearance, for the defendant to enter appearance. Within 10 days, if the defendant doesn't enter appearance, the plaintiff is entitled on, I would say, on service of such summons, on service of this summary suit summons. If he doesn't enter appearance, he is entitled for a decree under this chapter. And you may ask me, if it is an ex parte decree, there are some courts which pass a degree under this chapter, saying that the defendant had been ex parte summoned, served, defendant set ex parte, posted it for ex parte evidence or for further proceedings. This is not the case. Here, on such non-appearance, decree will be passed under this provision, Order 37-2-3, Rule 2, Subclass 3. The plaintiff is entitled for a decree. And next comes, once if he enters appearance, the plaintiff, the role of the defendant is that on the day of appearance, he should give a notice of appearance to the plaintiff counsel or the plaintiff in person who is appearing. Notice of appearance should be given to them, stating the reasons, not reason, that he is appearing for the defendant, and any copies or any summons may be served on him, all processes and notices. On receipt of, not on receipt of that, on he entering appearance on that particular date, the plaintiff is expected, the provision says, we move on to Rule 3, which the provision says, the plaintiff within a period of 10 days should, with the copies of everything, should serve a summons for judgment to the defendant. And in the meanwhile, the provision hangs in between. What happens if the notice of appearance is not given to the plaintiff? If the defendant does not given to the plaintiff, the provision is silent in that aspect. The provision does not say, if the notice of appearance is not given to the plaintiff is entitled for a degree and the defendant has to suffer a degree. It is not the provision. The provision ends there abruptly. And by that end, each courts at that juncture have their own views when it comes to decreeing a suit on that particular instance. There are some cases where decree is passed on a reason that the defendant had not given notice of appearance. And there are some judgments of the Supreme Courts which say failure to give notice of appearance will not entitle a degree. That is so. It is in a way where how the court is convinced by your case, or how the court officer is convinced by your case, that's a different issue. It stands by the fact on that. So we move on to the summons for judgment, the next stage. Once the summons for judgment is served, that is, the summons should be in Form 4A. And my friends and peers here know the summons of judgments in 4A. It will certainly contain why it should not be decreed or so and so like that. On such service, and within a period of 10 days, on such receipt of the summons for judgment, the defendant has to file an application for leave to defend. And it is the clause where the leave to defend, the leave petition, which should be supported by an affidavit, it should be convincing to the court, and the court should have a reasonable cause. And once, if there is a triable issue in that, leave will be granted. And there are so many judgments that have been circulating in and around this. And there may be a question whether this option of no defense to the defendant, will it not curtail the principles of natural justice or affect the principles of natural justice? I came across a judgment. This was a question that was circling around my mind for quite a long time. I went through a judgment. It was some maybe nearly 100 years old, wherein it was said, principles of natural justice does not affect under this chapter in Order 37 suits, where suit summons have been served. That is, the summary suit summons have been served. And the defendant had been given an opportunity of being heard, and that he should convince the court to grant him leave. There is a judgment. And at the end of it, after a time, I'll share the details with it. See, when it comes to leave, the predominant thing in that is that tribal issue should be involved. A defendant cannot raise a sham defense saying that he had not executed the bill of exchange or check or anything or pronote or something, that he is not a party to that. It is not expected. Mere swearing an affidavit will not at all be entertained in that issue. What happens is, it should be supported by some material documents. Only the material documents along with that can be taken up, and upon such thing, when the defendant says, I have paid certain amounts and the plaintiff is not entitled for the entire sum, whatever the sum that he has admitted as due has to be paid. Once he has paid it, leave will be granted conditionally. There are two kinds of leave that is granted by these courts, where a conditional order is passed or sometimes an unconditional leave is granted to defend. What is the effect of this provision? If leave is denied, leave is not granted, the consequence is the suit decrees. The plaintiff enjoys the decree and judgment, and he can proceed to the next level for execution or something. And what is the option left to the defendant is that if he had failed to obtain leave from the court, his only option is a kind of appeal. The first appeal under section 96 of CPC. Why I would say this as an appeal is, though the leave petition is dismissed, he can move the Honorable High Court under 227 of the Constitution of India. But by that time, the suit will be decreed. It's a consequence. When the leave petition is dismissed, immediately the suit will be decreed in favor of the plaintiff. So in that case, the plaintiff succeeds at that instance. See, and there are cases where an act of fraud had come up to these courts, and there were mere allegations of fraud or something between the parties, that he had created the document. In such a case, it has to be supported by some material documents such as a file, an FIR, or a police complaint or something. And after that, there were some queries regarding whether a dishonored check will come within the ambit of this provision. Can we file a suit under Order 37, a summary suit, under this chapter? Yes. Check is nothing but a bill of exchange. And the categorization of a check being a bill of exchange has not been made in CPC. It is not dealt with. But under the Negotiable Instruments Act, it had been specifically stated that check is a bill of exchange. And there are two instances in this kind of suits, in under chapter suits, where you will have a chance of getting decree under Rule 3, where the defendant fails to enter appearance. And at the next stage, under 3.6, where under Rule 3.6, where the leave petition filed by the defendant is dismissed. It is one clause where the defendants had been fighting all along for each and every day for grant of leave. Why the courts are strict in ensuring that the leave petitions are to be dealt in a strict manner is that the court will put a test as to whether the defense raised by the defendant is a substantial one, whether it is a tribal issue or not. What is a tribal issue? Tribal issue is the one issue that can be determined only when that particular issue is subjected to a trial before the courts. Unless or otherwise that issue is arise, leave will not at all be granted. Otherwise, as I said, this, let me go through certain, the principal postulates. There were some, the courts were exercising their own jurisdictions in considering the facts and circumstances of the case. But by the year 1977, there was an advent of McCulloch's case, where such a finding was given, something was formulated. These are the tribal issues, and what are the things that are to be done. MECHELEC, McCulloch. That is the case. That is, I would say, McCulloch Engineers and Mrs. Basic Equipment Corporation. That pertains to the year 1976, reported in 1977 by the Honorable Apex Court. They had postulated certain things. I would like to refer to the last thing. If the defendant satisfies the court that he has a good defense to the claim on its merits, plaintiff is not entitled to leave to sign judgment, and the defendant is entitled to unconditional leave to defend. Though there are cases where it pertains to say unconditional leave should be granted, leave is granted on a conditional like that. And very recently, I came across a judgment rendered by Honorable Justice Bhanumati J, which had a specific finding that unconditional leave should be granted if the circumstances compel to. And after giving a finding also, the learned Justice Bhanumati had directed the defendant to deposit a certain sum of rupees 5 lakhs in that case. And on such deposit, the leave is granted. So, it is one such provision where the plaintiff is highly benefited from the other illegalities of the defendant, so that this provision ensures a speedy justice. And there's another clause which had not been that much enforced or taken up by the courts. That is the Rule 4, power to set aside the decree. That is, on a deep analysis, we can know, it is seen that the court that passes this decree under Order 37 has the power to set aside, to stay, or grant leave to defend the suit to the defendant under this provision, under special circumstances. So, there are some analysis with regard to special circumstances and the circumstances that compel under Order 9, Rule 13. When both are put to analysis, and it came to light for me that the special circumstances is that to effect speedy justice in such cases, the court grants leave voluntarily to some persons, to some defendant, either one or two defendant or the other defendant. And there are some cases where some companies might have been involved. In such a case, a statement ought to have been recorded. And in such a circumstances, that will be considered as a special circumstance, and leave is granted. There were some cases where the defendant had been prevented from due process. That was considered as a special circumstance, and the decree was set aside, passed against him under Order 37 was set aside. And by this we have, I think I have narrated and put it in a nutshell before you all. And let's go on to the interaction column any further. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Said Navamurthy has given a judgment regarding the jurisdiction of district courts.
Yes.
Saying that McCulloch case, it passed only in 1977.
Yes.
Thereafter, an amendment was issued.
Yeah,
originally they have given only certain courts.
Yes.
1977 notification, they included all the courts. Most of these things now don't come to the knowledge of the district judges. That's why that mistake has occurred. Thereafter, they have rectified it. And you are also said on someone. There are first he has to give a notice someone. Then after appearance, he is file a petition for issue judgment. Summons for judgment. That is 37,464. These are the two things added to your argument. And they give the power to set aside the expert degree also. Recently, we have done a case.
Yes, sir. Party away. That, but this is where for
Not properly hearing you. These are the two things. And one of the ground, one case I remember, leave was not granted, stating that you may prolong the case, litigation. There they filed a CRP under 227. Justice M.M. Sundaresh has rejected that, and stating that here litigation is prolonged, you cannot refuse to continue.
Will not be the legal.
These two things are simultaneously come along with this Justice Nagamuthu. Nagamuthu has also not mentioned in his judgment that he advised that's all.
Because judgment has
Not audible.
now that after his judgment, districts have been enjoying.
And there is a provision also to convert a summary suit into a regular suit.
Yes, sir.
At any point of time, judge thinks it's not a summary way we cannot dispose it of. He himself can transfer it and as an original suit.
Yes, sir. On he opining
His
that,
satisfaction.
on he opining that the tribal issue is involved in the suit.
No. Even summary suit itself, if he filed, if he is satisfied that it cannot be tried summarily, he himself has power to convert it as a regular suit. Not even without even issuing a memo to defendants. You can see this 2013 3 TLJ 43. That is Justice M.M. Sundaresh. He has done a lot of homework in that Order 37.
Yes, sir.
That's all. Anybody else, sir?
Ashok,
Yes, sir.
Ramesh here. It's a,
Yes,
it's
sir.
a bird's eye view of this thing is a wonderful thing. But I want to know what happens after granting the leave. That procedure which is followed after granting the leave, you have to explain, no? That
becomes a
regular suit.
Becomes a regular suit. The defendant will be directed to file the written statement, and after filing the written statement, it will be posted for framing of issues. It will become a normal
Trial one, but only under 37, not under.
7 rules are
regular suit.
Oh, so then you have to find this thing, plaint or order rules, order 7 rule 1.
Yes.
You need to file a fresh plaint. And
Not.
same
Not
thing.
it's automatic. Once the leave is granted, in my opinion, it is automatic.
Got you. But in one of the cases, they asked us to file this under 7 rule 1. I heard somewhere. I may be wrong.
Not at all necessary. Once leave is granted, it becomes a normal suit, regular suit.
Very good.